Hi, my name is Victoria Alves, and I am doing a video for my assignment number one for intellectual, sensory, and learning disabilities. I read an article called In the LD Bubble, written by Lynn Peckley. Hopefully I said that correctly. And I got some things that I'd like to say. So this analysis is about a 35-year-old woman who had just returned to college after struggling since childhood with an LD exceptionality. The story is called In the LD Bubble, and she is talking about her own struggles that she faced living her whole life with an LD label. I'll be citing a few sentences from the video as well, so just bear with me here. So Lynn Peckley is 35 years old, and she was diagnosed with dyslexia in her late 20s by a psychologist, but has lived with the LD throughout her whole childhood. Her family. Lynn is one of 5 children. Some of her siblings had also a undiagnosed LD, and some of her siblings were highly intellectual and had different opportunities than that she had. I find that in the article it doesn't really talk a lot about her parents and what they provided for her when she was younger, but one thing that stood out in the article was that they provided a lot of love and support, and they continuously encouraged her to, I guess, learn, fight through her own goals, and listen to the struggles that she faced. Her elementary school, she was in a regular classroom, but often taken to a remedial reading class, which is a smaller setting. She is very descriptive in her article about the emotions and the lifestyle she faced in the article, and it is very sad to hear about the moments that she struggled with. Starting from childhood, she always noticed that her teachers would talk about her instead of to her, about the poor work that she would provide. She struggled on tests. She would face, swelling, trouble breathing. She would, constantly be sweating, and she would always compare herself to her classmates. She would be ashamed of her work, and she would describe it as being worthless, as having an LD. She was teased on the playground for being in the remedial reading program, often called the retard room. And I want to read a quote that she wrote. "Dyslexia is like a bubble. I'm enclosed in an invisible sheath that allows me to become excitingly close to being normal, but never completely there. I can move within it, but never outside of it. You cannot see it. It has a thick wall that are impossible to break free from. Sometimes I don't feel it there, but other times I felt as if it was suffocating me and killing me." She struggled with reading and writing a lot. Her high school experience. She had one tutor that was abysmal, didn't really do well, was more of like a self-taught theory. And then her second tutor kind of helped her a lot, gave her self-confidence, helped her, would work alongside her, would help her understand what her role was as having an LD in normal functioning society, and not to worry and stress about it. This tutor helped her write her own paper, would help her learn, I guess, algebra, solving for X. And she describes her high school as not having a lot of experience with her girlfriends. She felt still different. She compared herself a lot. She still had normal functioning relationships, but it was within the LD community. She felt as if there was a divide between smart people and people with LD. She still felt judged, and that she still felt worthless and stupid. Even in high school, the normal society would judge her. Adolescence. Lynn describes her adult life in a similar fashion as her younger years, always looking at how people perceived her, and she still didn't have a lot of confidence in herself. She loved to work because it was one thing that she was proud of and that she could accomplish, and she felt independent. She says the more praise she received, the harder she worked. She felt independent and that she could be successful, even though she even thought about quitting school and just going to work. Until one day her boss made her feel as if she was worthless and could never amount to anything. Her boss pointed out that she would never graduate from high school or go to college, and Lynn took this time, she had to take time away from work because I think she was emotionally distraught from hearing this. And felt very inadequate. And even though the boss apologized for the words that he had said, she still never fully trusted him and felt as if she was being judged. Lynn describes being LD as like living a double life. She felt like some people knew who she was and she could feel normal. But at one minute, she felt if you didn't know who she was, she felt like she had to be fake and try to hide herself and try to hide her secrets. She explains that she never felt like she could accomplish her goals. She felt like worthless, and she'd be like, what's the point of making a goal if I can never achieve it? In the end, though, I think in her late 30s, she reapplied to university because her mom asked her to. She found resources that would help her, and she talked to somebody about having an LD. And I think this was her breaking point and where she found independence, and she still found that she can learn. So even though she kind of went through this wave of ups and downs in high school, there was that one person that kind of made her feel good. Again, and when she reapplied to university a second time, this person said, you can have an LD and still learn something. She was given no timed tests, audio recordings, and she was learning. She was also integrated. So she thanks her parents at the end of the article for their love and their support, and she no longer feels worthless. Her college experience is so much better now that it is that she is not taken away to a special classroom, and that she is integrated with all students, and that she's continued to learning. So what patterns did I notice and similarities and differences? I noticed that if nobody cared for her, she didn't care either. That was one big thing. I think that if you were more of a friend, she felt happy. She felt kind of like she was normal. I also thought that she was emotionally distracted all the time, even throughout her tests, and even just basically in society. Her own perception, played a big role of her self-worth. She was very, very, what about me? Oh my God, look at me. I don't know what I'm doing. I think that created a big barrier for her, thinking that there is always something wrong with me. When she got to university, she, I think, broke free from that and noticed that, it's not a disability. It's just something that's a part of me. It's not all of me. And she found ways to fix it, but on her own. Nobody was giving it to her. Nobody was telling it to her. She had to seek it for her own, and that kind of created independence, self-confidence, and self-teaching, kind of like self-teach learning, you know what I mean? She has to be her own person, and I think through that she's gaining a lot more. I think throughout her article you could see the waves and up and downs of the periods of her life where she breaks down, gives up, especially emotionally. When people tell her that she doesn't amount to anything, she kind of runs away, and takes a while to kind of regain confidence. She relied on others and self-helplessness because the schools were always trying to support her and treating her as if she was a special case. So she never really learned or thought for herself, and that plays a big role too. You're always constantly taken away from your friends and constantly taken away from your own perception. I think that played a big role in seeing how other people thought of her. She didn't develop coping strategies or any coping skills. So throughout the whole time she was going through all these issues, she was never coping with her emotions. She didn't go home and tell her parents because her parents had so many things to deal with at home too. 5 kids. It was probably a pretty big struggle to always having to face that and deal with it. What did you learn about this discovery? I learned that being dyslexic, it can cause an amount of struggles. She couldn't read a paint label off the can when she was at work, and her boss was trying to do inventory, and she says, I can't read it. Boss says, what do you mean you can't read it? Can't read it? I can't read it. Boss was offended and took out his anger on her, and therefore she broke down again. So being dyslexic, I think learning how to, to break free from that is probably the first step, and to help people with, dealing with dyslexia, methods and ways to, I guess, decode is something that I need to take into consideration as an EA, and finding what works for that student. And I don't think that Lynn got that in her article at all. Even with her tutor, they still didn't help her learn how to read. Even though she wrote her own paper, she still had struggles with dyslexia even after high school. So that's a big pattern that was never broken. How does this new learning, sorry, I have to answer these questions. How does the new learning influence you as an educator? New learning. I want to say, this is what I want to say, and this is how I want to reflect in this video, is that reading this article brought a lot of my insecurities of when I was going through high school and going through elementary school. I felt I faced a lot of the same things. I was put in separate classrooms. I developed self-hate towards myself, especially in high school, and I didn't work towards my goals until it was nearly almost the end of high school. I said I have to graduate. I felt a lot of the things that she was feeling, even though she had a label and I didn't. I never was labeled with an LD. I just had to deal with the problems that I faced every day on my own, like everybody else. But did I have those same feelings that she did? Yes, I did, every single day. So I also too felt sad through this article. So as an EA, I want to be like Lynn's parents. I want to provide an EA love and support kind of personality when students see me. I don't want them to be afraid of me when they see me. I want them to come up to me and ask questions, and I want to be there. I may not know all the answers to all the questions, but I'm going to try my best to make sure that I help them solve it. I want people to come up to me and, not be ashamed of who they are, and I want to be able to treat them equally, not segregate them or think, okay, let's go to our separate classroom right now and see if we can help you with your strategies. I want to try and learn with these people inside a classroom and help them, be the best person that they could possibly be. I want to help students gain self-confidence, and I think this article has taught me that, is that do not judge anybody for what they can and cannot do. Just to succeed and keep pushing forward, and finding strategies for kids at a younger age as opposed to a later age is something that's probably definitely really key. That probably will take 10 years off of somebody's life. Instead of going to school at 35, they're still going to go to school at 21. Not to judge anybody who goes to school later. I am one of them. So that's the end of my video. I hope that I showed you the struggles and the things that people face. I didn't really integrate misunderstood minds into this, but I did compare within myself and saw that, what Lynn faced, a lot of the other students in the misunderstood minds faced it as well. I kind of related it to Adam, who went to jail. His family knew that he had an LD, but the teachers didn't really help. And I think I felt that same kind of rapport from the teachers in Lynn's article. Lynn didn't really focus on that. Lynn focused a lot on her emotions that she felt living with an LD. She didn't really talk about the teachers who were there in her life. She may have talked about one, but it wasn't really a lot. What else about misunderstood minds? Having a lot of kids and, not attacking it earlier is a great learning lesson. If parents don't help out their students or their children younger and they don't receive help from the teachers, I think that's the biggest thing from both the misunderstood minds video and through this article, is that everybody's got to work together. And unless that doesn't happen, I'm sorry, but it doesn't work out for the student at all. I think I'm going to leave it with that. I hope that this video for this assignment works out good, and thank you for listening.